before. Anyway, give me a second. Logged in. Refresh on here. As you can see, we're back in the workshop. Let's see who we've got with us. Come on, YouTube, you can do it. Give it another refresh. Too fast on the keyboard, Andy. Where is it? It's not showing up yet. I'm all on my own. Holy crap, there we are, look at that. Right, we're in. Okay, who have we got? Nobody yet. Wow, what's going on? It's not normal. Okay, well, we'll fire up a cigarette while we're waiting then. So many adverts on YouTube these days. Right, so it's been a very busy couple of weeks, to be honest. This last week, I was completing what I call dealer visits. It's been a busy week trekking around the country, completing those. Golly, there was so many. So basically, I've achieved, I think, 4 this week with a lot of Ks. Went all the way up to Kaitaya. So I had dealer visits. Oh, that was the previous week. So basically, I went all the way to Kaitaya and went to Kaiwaka, Whangarei, Kaitaya, and back. That took me 4 days to complete. Simon Roll, good morning, Simon. Welcome back to the workshop, mate. And then the weekend was pretty calm. Just took it easy. We did some work around the house. Found we've got borer in the house. That's woodworm for the English people around. It's very localized at the moment, but something which we have to deal with. So it's a bit of a worry at the moment. And you can hear the little blighters chomping away at the wood pretty much 24/7. Hungry things they are. So I've got that to sort out in the background. Got the, as you maybe saw on the video that's about to go out, it's just gone out. The side port is finished other than the steel tin to go on. That's going to arrive, I would say, in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're going to get that. And then we'll get the roof put on, and it's finished as regards the side port. We've then got a retaining wall to build, and then another shed at the end to match Ben's shed, a mirror image of Ben's shed. So, yeah, pretty full on, to be honest. Simon says, morning, Andy and crew. Morning, Simon. So I did all that Kaitaya run, and then this week I had Monday, admin. Tuesday was a visit in Rotorua. Wednesday was admin. And then Thursday was, where the hell did I go on Thursday? Oh yes, Otrahanga. And the car took me a really weird way. It was actually a lot longer, and I hit loads of roadworks, so it was a bit stressful getting there on time. No speeding, Andy, obviously. Missed out my coffee though at the start. Anyway, not to worry. And then Friday was pretty relaxed. Went down to Tokoroa, not too far away from home, to go and see Craig. Had a good chat with Craig, good catch up, and then back home to do a little bit of admin work, and then I was all done basically for the week. So lots of admin, lots of dealer visits, basically back on the road. I plan my schedule for the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks, and man, I am busy, really busy. And that obviously includes going down to the South Island. I've had to juggle things around a little bit due to other commitments, some personal as well. You know, you've just got to make things work for everybody. But, you know, going to be away quite a bit, unfortunately, during the week. Most weekends still at home, apart from the South Island. So we've got Connor K, morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Connor. And a big happy birthday to Connor. It was Connor's birthday earlier in the week. The Giant. Good evening, Andy and crew. How is everyone doing? Pretty knackered, to be honest. Yesterday, wasn't too bad a day. I think it was the last couple of weeks have caught up with me. What did I do yesterday? So first job was to extract the ROV that I'm currently working on out of the garden and bring it back down to the workshop. And yesterday I removed the rear shocks because they need to be rebuilt. I've rebuilt those now because they were, again, badly corroded. The little C-clip plate that goes on the top of the spring was really badly corroded. And actually on one of them, didn't realize when it was in situ, but the retainer plate at the bottom of the spring was wafer thin. So that had to be replaced as well. What's this? Earn money for charity whilst charging. No, you're okay. Phone does some weird stuff. And then starting on the front end. Front end again, the shocks, the two top retaining plates were horrendously bad. I got those shocks stripped. One of the shocks wasn't a shock absorber anymore. Luckily, I had a good second-hand one, so I used that. And on the other side, the spring was broken as well. So I found a good spring and fitted that. So front shocks are all done. They're actually back in the vehicle at the moment to facilitate movement. And the next job was to remove the steering rack. Now, the steering rack was essentially, it's bolted in with 4 bolts into the chassis. Usually, when they're really rusty, those bolts are hard to get out. These weren't. These were quite easy. And I thought, oh, that's pretty good. Okay, that's a saving grace. And it had the forged copper paste, sorry, the silver paste on there, the aluminium paste. So I thought, oh, well, maybe I've been in here before. And I'd fitted a new steering column shaft. And unfortunately, the bolt that goes up to the motor at the top, it was a M8 6mm Allen key head, a cap head bolt. I could not get it out. Absolutely seized solid. So the only way forward was to cut the steering shaft. I know, not ideal. So eventually got it off in pieces. It needs a new one, obviously, which I have in stock. Steering rack is to pick up in Auckland. That's been ordered. And it needs a tail light as well. So got the old rack taken out. Got all the old steering column shaft taken out. So it's all prepped up now, ready for the new parts to be fitted. When I put the steering rack on the bench, all this water fell out. It all ran out. The whole thing was full of seawater, and it was all brown and rusty. So no wonder it failed. The pinion bearing had collapsed on it. Very, very difficult. It would still steer, but only just yet. It was really heavy on the steering wheel. So that's all done. That was all yesterday, and embedded in all of that. And spoiler alert, Ben had another problem with his ute. He set off from Auckland on Friday, sort of tea time-ish, and we get this call or a text, Facebook message, that was it, saying, hey, there's something wrong with my ute. It smells again, smells of burning grease, and the brakes are really hot on the front. And it's like, oh no, maybe his brakes are dragging. So he confirmed that the discs were very hot, the hubs were really hot. But if the discs were hot, the hottest, then obviously it's the brakes that would cause the problem. He jacked it up, spun the wheel, and sure enough, they were dragging, not horrifically, but they were dragging. So anyway, he let them cool down a little bit, and then we put together a back road route all the way here, about an extra sort of 60 kilometers in distance. Took a lot longer to drive, but he took it real steady, about 70 k's an hour, and he had no further problems. At one point, he said the brakes were pulsating really badly, which is a sign of a warped disc. So due to the heat, so not good. But luckily, they straightened themselves back out as they cooled down, and the discs are all fine, or the rotors if you're American. The Giants. Done that one, Simon. Connor K. Did you see the ship in the Humber Humber estuary ran aground on the spring tide? It's a good month till the next big tide. Holy crap, it's going to be there for a whole month. That's not ideal. The Giant, did you get to use the new angle grinder? Happy birthday, Connor. Hope you had a wonderful birthday. I did yesterday, in fact, removal of that steering shaft, from the steering wheel. And it performed admirably well, really. It was very impressive. Did the job. It's a little bit longer than the Makita, I've noticed, so it was a little bit harder to get in that space that I had available to get all the angles of the cut that I wanted. But other than that, absolutely mint. It was powerful enough. I put a slit disc in it, and it just did the job. What was quite nice, I do like that speed variable thing on it. That was pretty cool. Didn't use it yesterday, but I'm sure it'll come in very handy. Simon, happy birthday, Connor. So there you go, Connor. You've got a few more happy birthdays there. Now, what's the audio and the visual like? Because my visual's pretty bad, to be honest. Let's have a quick look, see what we're connected to. We are connected to the workshop internet, so hopefully things aren't too bad. Fingers crossed. Anyway, we have a pie, a weird pie for today. It's made a new company, a new pie company has popped up that I've never seen this one before. Awamutu. There you go. That's the kiwi pie. There you go. Pretty cool brand. Phone number and address and everything. One sweet and sour pork pie. Well, I like sweet and sour pork, so it might be all right. It might be quite a revelation having that in a pie. So I picked that up a couple of days ago. Where was I? I was on that diversion route, the different routes to Otrahanga, and I had to call into a petrol station on the way home. The only petrol station, actually. Luckily, it was a BP. And it's a weird kind of BP. They've got like a cafe type thing going on. It's huge. It's the cafe area, and they sell all sorts of hot food and stuff. I think a lot of truck drivers stop there. And I spotted this in the cabinet. I thought, oh, geez, I've not tried that before. So I got this one, and I also got a steak and cheese, same brand, and I had the steak and cheese for my lunch, although it was a very late lunch. And I'm not kidding, the steak and cheese was absolutely brilliant. The steak, the chunks of steak in that pie were by far the biggest I've ever come across in any pie in New Zealand. And they were really tasty chunks of meat as well. So good job, Kiwi Pies. Big fan at the moment. So I'm not going to allow that to taint this one. I'm going to score this one on its own merits. But if this was a steak and cheese, it will get really good marks. So we'll grab one of those next time I'm out in that area, and we'll do a review on that one. So, should we go and put it in the pie warmer? I think we should. Okay, cigarettes done. We've got audience now, which is nice. Fancy starting a live stream with nobody in the workshop. Honestly. Okay, I'm going to turn you around. 3, 2, 1. Oh, in fact, we've got to open it out. Take it out of the bag, haven't we? Here we go. This is what it looks like. Are you ready? Never been out of the bag before. Look at that. So it's puff pastry on the top. Structural integrity. Not too bad, but I do think my workbench is getting covered in. Look at the layers of pastry on that. Jeez. Lid looks pretty good. Already starting to fall off. And the back. Jeez. Look at that. Wow. Not ideal. Okay, so the base is well cooked, but no huge cracks I can see on there. So structural integrity is pretty damn good at the moment. Okay, to the pie warmer. Turn you around. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Okay, here we go. Dum 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 dum. Ben's outside under the carport, working on his patrol. He's doing the swivel hub seals today, because it's leaking a little bit. Right, we'll stick that in there. He's getting ready for certification. Okay, came out of the fridge, so 23 minutes, and things should be all good. Right, let's head back to the bench. We'll do the parcel in a minute. Let's get caught up with the comments, because there's a few more fired through, I believe. Turn you around. 3, 2, 1. Boom. There we go. And my apologies. I don't know if it's affected you guys or not, but the platform for the live streams now that YouTube provide using a mobile phone has changed somewhat, and it's quite ambiguous. And it took me 3 attempts to get a live stream fired up this morning. It's a real problem actually for me. I'll get rid of that. Don't need those. And I wasn't too sure if it was actually going to go live or not. So hopefully they'll put things back to as they were, or they'll make them better at least, because it was pretty annoying this morning. Right, where do we get to? Simon, happy birthday, Connor. Simon, you're getting your ass handed to you by a cap bolt. Yes, I'm getting my ass kicked by a Nissan Primastar. with 3 injectors. Never heard of one of those things. Mr. 30-ton ram is taking them out an inch at a time. Wow, so they seize in big time, right? Not good at all. But Simon, if you can get them out, well, if you can get them out, then perfect. And you've got all the gear to do it, right? Oh, so I was going to say, if anyone can get them out, you can get them out, Simon, because I've seen some of your videos and it's pretty impressive what goes on. But yeah, it's not ideal, is it? Bad design, really. Makes them so hard to work on. Mike Adams, hi all. Break time for me. Late to the party as usual, but I'm here, lol. Mike, not a problem at all, mate. Welcome back and good to have you on board. Connor K, thank you everyone. Yes, I did have a nice day for my 60-year-old man. 60. Wow, I'm only 53 this year, so I'm not far behind you, Connor. Several pints, good man, and good conversation at the pub. Perfect. I will search for information about the ship running around after the live stream. Always very interesting looking for ships running around. Nothing recently, as far as I'm aware, in New Zealand has run aground. Although there's still all sorts of weird and wonderful talk going on about the ferries. They placed a deposit on 2 new ferries. And forgive me if we covered this before, but it came up in the news again recently about bad use of public money. I think they put down, I think it was $30 million deposit for 2 new ferries. This is the government, right? And then cancelled the order. $30 million. Bloody hell. That's a lot of money. Is that good use of public money? I'll let you answer that one. Mike Adams, working on wiring in my 48-year-old Ford. On the positive side, pardon the pun, there's already an eighth the wires and no computers to fool with, opposed to modern vehicles. Yeah, modern vehicles are a nightmare. I'm aware of a motorcycle out there at the moment that's got 8 modules. 8. Well, I know cars have a lot more, but motorcycles are getting so complex now that when they have an electronic fault, it can be very difficult to find. Normally it's a module fault, actually, that I've found. But yeah, a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest. Well, good luck with your Ford, Mike. Oh, One Little Lady and Co. Happy birthday, Connor. Mrs. Mechanics chipped in. She must be awake. Good job. She'll kick me for that later on. You wait. Mike Adams, for the record, I wasn't driving the ship. Me neither. Mike Adams, happy birthday, Connor. Perfect. So, yesterday, we were talking about brakes, and I diverted off. So, Ben's brakes were binding up. He made it home. He got here about 10 o'clock at night. It was a long drive for the poor lad. And then yesterday, in between all this ROV stuff, Ben jacked the vehicle up. In fact, he had both his vehicles under the carport. It was like a repair Ben's fleet day, really. And we ripped the calipers off. And I remember we were talking about years ago, and you're going to reprimand me for this, but for some reason, we must have been in there before and cleaned the pistons up on the calipers. It's only a single-sided caliper as regards piston, one big piston, so pretty basic. And there were no dust seals. No. So I think the dust seals had shit themselves, basically, in the past. And we popped the pistons out, cleaned them up, put them back in, got him on the road. And then he'd ordered some new main seals, dust, a caliper reconditioning kit, but it didn't come with new pistons, unfortunately. So yesterday, popped the pistons out, and they were filthy, in all honesty. There was definitely limited piston retraction. That's why the brakes were binding on. So I popped the pistons out, put them in the lathe, cleaned them up really well. Yes, there was a little bit of pitting, but it wasn't really around the part of the piston that's, because the brake pads are pretty worn as it is. So, they weren't in contact with the main seals or the dust seals, the pitted areas. So it wasn't really a problem. Got them cleaned up, put the new main seals in from the kit, put the dust seals in, from the kit, and reassembled it all and everything and bled them up. And they seem a lot better. We're not too sure what Ben's going to do with his ute. He was talking yesterday about, hey, look, it's getting a bit old. He's got a problem with the engine. I think we discussed that, where one of the spark plugs keeps coming loose. Threads are on the way out, unfortunately. So it's going to need to. I know we can do it in situ, but he wants to recondition it. If he's going to do it, he wants to recondition the engine properly, so it'll be a full strip, probably a crank grind, rebore, new pistons, rings, shells, all that kind of stuff. Is it worth doing? Well, the reality is it probably isn't. It's pretty heavy on fuel. So he's been toying with the idea of getting himself just a daily driver, something a bit more modern that's a lot cheaper on fuel. And he says, oh, one of the vehicles I'm looking at, because he likes his four-wheel drives, he doesn't want a car. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want a car. He was thinking about getting a Suzuki Jimny, same as Mrs. Mechanic's. Poodle. Get told off for that as well. And I said to him, well, okay, sounds like a plan. He says, oh yeah, I'll put a lift kit on it like Poodle, and I'll put some decent sized tyres on, that kind of thing, just so it looks a bit nicer. And I said, well, we've already got one of them. Why don't you just buy your mum's Jeep and we'll get her something else? Because Mrs. Mechanic hasn't really bonded with that vehicle, which is a bit of a shame. I think it's great. Other than the wibbly wobbly steering that goes on, I think it's great. So Ben's like, oh, okay, that's a possibility, because it would be a little bit cheaper for him than buying a new car, and it's done hardly any work. It's done like 10,000 kilometers, 6,000 miles. It's done nothing really. So it's an option. And then I would buy Mrs. Mechanic something that she would enjoy driving a bit more. It would need to be four-wheel drive based. I was thinking about buying another long wheelbase Patrol like the Fun Bus, and then swapping all the gear across, the lift kit and the winch and that kind of thing, because it'd be good for towing, and it's powerful enough for, in that they are very torquey, that it's not that quick on the road, but she doesn't drive that far, to be fair. And it'd be good to have our own towing vehicle rather than just the company car, because hey, the company car won't be there one day. It'll, won't be working. I'll be retired. So that's one option. Or the other option may be to buy one of the X Rangers from my work fleet when they come up. But she wasn't over keen on a Ranger, not as a daily driver. So it could well be another Patrol. We might become another Patrol family, the way things are going. So watch this space. I don't know. I do like the little Jimny, but if it helps Ben out, then it's the best way forward, isn't it? Okay, lots of comments. We'll do these, and then we've got a parcel to open up. Bum 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 bum. Right, scrolling down. Connor K, 30 million is low for construction of two. Yes, that was only the deposit, Connor. That wasn't. And what was happening was the estimated final build costs had doubled during that period. So that, I think that's why they pulled out. They just didn't have the money to do it. So I suppose they just wrote it off as a bad idea. But $30 million as a deposit of taxpayers' money to just walk away from is like, how are you going to get away with that? They're going to get some pretty serious grief for that, I think, to be fair. The Giant, please, if you recondition the engine, do a video on it. We will definitely be filming it. So I've said to Ben, if we're going to do it, then we're going to need an engine stand. We haven't got one of those, and there'll be a lot of outwork. We'll have to get it rebored and the crank ground and so on, and then do the rebuild. It'll be pretty cool. But we'll do a few measurements before we do all that to see how bad it's got. It doesn't really burn in the oil, which is nice. It's not really knocky at the bottom end either. So, I mean, okay, from a cost perspective, maybe that doesn't need to be done, really. It's just head off, get the head fixed, maybe lap the valves back in. Maybe we need to replace some of the valves. I don't know until we get in there. And then slap it back together. New cam belt, and off he goes. That would be the budget way to do it. But it's an old truck. He's had 11 years of use out of it. He only paid $600 for it. Yes, he spent a lot more on it over the years keeping it going. But it's an old truck. It's done 450,000 kilometers now. So everything's getting pretty tired. And it's a bit like Apollo 13 trying to keep it going. This is the problem. And where do you stop? Plus, the savings on fuel that you'd get would significantly help to pay for the new vehicle. So there's a win-win there as well. And you don't need to fix it all the time. Plus, when he leaves Auckland, he's pretty much guaranteed to get here, which, you know, I can only go out. So, that particular night, if he'd said, look, I needed to bring the big trailer and pick me up, I wouldn't have got home till the early hours of the morning. He was still a long way from home. And to be fair, I'd had 2 ciders. Really shouldn't have been. I was in a position where I couldn't drive that night. He'd be on his own, limping his way here. Not good. Not a good situation to be in. Mike Adams, rebuilding will be a lot cheaper than buying new. It will, or even a decent used vehicle nowadays. And he will know what he has. This is the dilemma we're in. We traditionally, we always like to fix stuff, right? And it's his truck. It's his Dibner truck, I call it. And it's been a brilliant ute for him, although he has had problems. Corrosion is starting to set in. We replaced the windscreen about a year ago. And we obviously took the old screen out, which is a bonded screen. So we took the screen out. That was a palaver. What a mess. And he cleaned up all the steel work, you know, around the frame of the body where the screen fits. And in the main, not bad, but we treated all the rust and stuff, but it is starting to corrode. And he did have a bit of a leak afterwards on a really, really heavy downpour in Auckland. He said there was a little bit of a drip coming in. So he's got it sealed up now, but, you know, again, it's like, how much longer, how long is the gearbox going to last? How long is the clutch going to last? How long is the diff going to last? There's so many components that every day are wearing out and will require replacement at some point. Plus, he's insisting on running these huge, great, knobbly tyres on a 2-wheel drive ute. And that's not helping kingpin bearings and wheel bearings, as we've seen previously. So, it's a bit of a compromise. It's not ideal. For many years, he ran it on the standard size tyres, which are a lot smaller, and we never had any problems. He says that the offset on the rims is still the same, but I don't know. There's definitely a lot more loading on the front wheel bearings now. Right, we have a parcel to open up. So we'll turn you around, 3, 2, 1, boom. Okay, my visual looks a lot better now. As you can see, look at a live stream on a live stream. Look at that. Pretty cool. Okay, it was all grainy earlier on, and then we put the pie in and it seeded itself. Okay, so this is the parcel. And I'll tell you a little story once we've opened it up, I think. Okay, so Woody's Engineering supplied me this. And I haven't been in, obviously, as you can see. Don't put yourself, Andy. Jeez. Can you guess what it is? Probably not at the moment. Oh, you can now, probably. Right. Jeez, look at that. Oh, yes, look at this. Ugh. See what you're thinking. Andy, why on earth? Why do you need a whacking great hunk of aluminium? Well, Andy has got some machining to do. I've got to cut this down into, I think it'd be about 40mm lengths. This is a 500mm length, by the way, and it's 100mm in diameter. So I've got to cut it down and then whack it in the little lathe. Hopefully it's going to fit in there. Oh, God. If not, I'll have to come up with a cunning plan. And machine out about 80mm diameter internal, which is a hell of a lot of machining for this little lathe to do, to be fair. And then I've got to machine down on the outside and create like a flange at the top, like a top hat, like a giant top hat washer, basically what it is. And I'll tell you all about that now. Back to the bench. Okay, terrible camera work, Andy, because you moved the camera, didn't you? Right, there we go. Okay, that works. Okay, so that's aluminium stock, as we call it. What I'm going to be making, what's the picture like? Well, not too bad. We haven't lost too much internet on that one. Basically, there's I can't tell you too much, but there's a plastic component, and then there's a rubber joiner piece and another pipe that runs underneath. And the plastic component you can't get the clamp tight enough to create a proper seal. This assembly can become submerged in deep water. It's on an ROV. So what I'm going to make up to solve the problem is an insert, like a sleeve that goes inside, and then it'll support the plastic. So when you tighten up the clamp really tight, the plastic won't deform and then create a void between the boot, the rubber joiner, and the plastic, basically a box. It's an air box. So it's a test, a trial. So that's today's job. Got to get that much. I've got to get rid. I need to make 3, but I think I'll make 1 and get them to do a test fit. I do have the parts here, but not the exact parts. The ones I've got here are old ones, which have been replaced with a slightly different design, not to solve this problem, to solve a different problem, but there's evidence that the joint is leaking, and I think this will help to solve that problem. So I think I'll make 1 today, get it, send it down, get them to fit it and give me some feedback, and then I'll make some more. Assuming I can get it made on the lathe, because it's quite a hunk, quite a chunk. The diameter is a bit of a concern, so I'll work something out. I always do. Not too bad, really. But it'll take a while. And the lathe's got a bit of an overheating issue where it's got a thermal cutout on it. So once you do a bit of machining and work it a bit hard, it'll cut out for about 5 minutes while it cools down. So it's going to be an on and off job, unfortunately. Something I need to fix. Not go around to fixing it. But usually most of the machining I do is pretty short, short little bits. So it's never really a problem. But with this particular job, it's going to be a problem. I know it is. I mean, what I might do is I could even chuck it in the pillar drill and put a whacking great hole saw through the middle of that, just to get the bulk of the material out, rather than chomp it all the way on the lathe. But hey, we'll see how things pan out. So that piece, first of all, I priced some up in Auckland. Wakefield Metals they are. I've purchased stuff from them before. They're not cheap. And their stock, well, first of all, they didn't have stock of the 100mm diameter. So I had to go up to 125mm diameter, which is a lot more aluminium, right? And they would only sell me in a 1 meter length, not a 500mm. Well, I don't really need a whole meter of it, to be fair. But anyway, and they wanted nearly $700, including GST, for that 1 meter length at 125mm diameter. And it's like, I'm not spending that kind of money. That's just way too much for what I need to do. And they wouldn't sell me any shorter length. So I rang my friends down at Woody's Engineering in Wanganui. They're based. Top blokes. One day I'll go down there and I'll do a little video. You can do me. In fact, I should do that because it'd be really good. He can give me a walkthrough on his workshop. He's got all these wonderful lathes and milling machines and stuff. And he's a really animated chap, and he talks a lot, which is nice. He tells you all these stories and stuff. So their little workshop does lots of sort of small engineering jobs for people in and around Wanganui. Lots of motorcycle shops use them for skimming heads and that kind of thing. They do some fabrication work. They do a lot of machining work, and I've used them for quite a few years now to do machining work for me on job lots. I wonder if I've got any here. Hang on, let me have a look. Yes, hang on a second. In fact, yes, I'll grab them. Hang on. So many years ago, another little problem that I solved was on an ROV again, the rear springs are a progressive type spring. So some of the coils on the spring are a lot closer together than the others. The close together coils are the soft part of the spring, and the further apart parts of the coils are the stiffer part of the spring. And unfortunately, with farmers, when they load the vehicle up, the back end sags too much for their usage. That greatly reduces the clearance under the vehicle at the back end. But worse than that, is it actually affects the handling, the body of the vehicle, because the back end's down. It changes the steering geometry quite significantly, and the vehicle understeers a lot on like wet grass and stuff, especially if there's only one person in the cab. So there's not a lot of weight at the front end and a lot of weight at the back end. Plus they have they don't have a differential in the rear. They just have a final drive. So again, both rear wheels are being driven at the same time, at the same speed, which makes it difficult to steer anyway under some circumstances. So with the additional load and the sagging and the change in the geometry of the steering, it becomes actually quite, well, it's not ideal, to be honest. Mrs. Mechanic jumped in one a couple of years ago to turn it around on the grass. It was loaded up, it was fully loaded, 272 kilograms. Put her foot on the throttle, she was already in lock, and the vehicle just lurched forwards. It just didn't steer at all. But we had these sorted before then, actually. They weren't on that vehicle, but it highlighted the problem. So these are preload spacers, and I designed these. They're very simple. I designed these many, many years ago for that particular vehicle, and it solved the problem brilliantly. And initially, I used to make these all myself on that little Boxford lathe, but it was quite time consuming. And, you know, with this particular job, I don't have a lot of time. So I found an engineering company in Wanganui that was very, very happy to make these for me. And what they charged me to get these made is very, very reasonable, to be honest. Very happy. It makes it viable to do. There's been over 400 sets of these go out here in New Zealand now, and nearly every one of those ROVs across the country has got these fitted, which is fantastic. Certainly helps to pay for a few pies, doesn't it? So they're good lads down there, and yes, I'm sure they'll be quite amenable for me to go down one afternoon. They'll take maybe half an hour out of their busy schedule. Might have to pay them, who knows? And they can give me a walk through the workshop, and we'll film it all, and we'll do a little video, and then you can join me on seeing what their workshop's like and all the kit they've got. I'm going to be down there actually in about 4 weeks, so maybe we can do it then. It'd be pretty cool, and I'll have some stuff to pick up as well, and a bill to pay. I've got to pay for that aluminium, haven't I? Jeez. Okay. Pie's still warming up, so we're not pieing just yet. So the cost of that, sorry, I forgot this bit. So Woody, he said he priced it up for me. He ran me back and he said I can do it for 180 plus GST. And I was like, that's very reasonable, Woody. I said, are you making any money at that? He says, no, not really. I said, well, that's not how businesses work, is it? I said, you've got to charge, right? You've got to charge and make a little bit at it. You've spent the money to get that stuff into stock. You've probably paid freight on it. He had a longer length, so I said, I only need 500 mil. Cut me a 500 mil length and send me that, but charge me 200. You know, at least it'll buy it. You know, a couple of pints down at the pub. Charge me $200 plus GST plus freight. You make a little bit on it, and we're all good. I said, it's still cheaper than me using the other company, and it arrived the next day. How cool was that? So you got it cut straight away, got it wrapped up, and got it out the door. So I'll have to take them some pies down, I think, when I go and see them, because they're good lads. They're really good lads. Where we get to dum 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 dum. Right, yes. Oh, Mike Adams, I only paid $900 for my old Ford. That's pretty good. $900 for parts. For a parts car, including delivery. Holy crap! I've put about $500 in maintenance parts. It's a little hard on fuel, but dependable. Ben was saying that exactly. You know, he has his Patrol, right? And his Patrol is a cool truck. He's currently going through compliance on that vehicle. When we bought it, we were told all the modifications were covered by the compliance plate. We believed the seller. He was actually under the impression they were as well. However, it turns out that originally that vehicle was an automatic gearbox vehicle, and it's now been swapped across to a manual. Now in the UK, it wouldn't make any difference, I don't believe, if the car was produced with a manual in it, it was a model, and you swap all the components across. When it goes for an MOT, it doesn't flag anything. It just goes through the MOT and it's fine. Here in New Zealand, any kind of modifications, even changing the gearbox type, requires certification. And it's a very expensive process to go through here in New Zealand, unfortunately. And the cert plate that's on the vehicle doesn't include the gearbox. Even though Ben's managed to track down the owner that had all the work done and had the certification done, and he said yes, when it went for cert, it had the manual gearbox in it, and they were asked to include that. So it's got the body lift, it's got the spring lift on it, it's got the tipper tray modification, it's got the cab conversion. So it's a heavily modified vehicle from standard, that's for sure. But obviously they forgot to put the gearbox modification on the cert plate, which is now come to light all these years later. All the previous warrant of fitness guys have not even noticed, but this guy has. And of course he failed the warrant because of it, because it wasn't covered by a cert. So Ben's got some more work to do to it, and we're taking it, Mrs. Mechanic's taking it to Taupo on Thursday to have the gearbox certification done. $1,000 for the inspection. Let's hope it passes. $1,000 just to change it, just for certification, to change it from an auto to a manual. It's just mental. It's just a money-making machine for some people. It really is. And Ben he should never have had to pay for that. He's had to sell a mountain bike to do that. Poor lad, to raise the cash for it. But once it's done, and then we can move on. But Ben was saying, I paid $20,000 for this patrol. Yes, I've spent a little bit on it, not a horrendous amount of money, but it's really heavy on fuel. And if I was to go and buy a nice new Land Cruiser, which is sort of the same kind of vehicle, it does the same kind of job, they're at least $100,000 to buy here in New Zealand, and they still use fuel, right? So the fuel difference, he said there's $80,000 difference in cost of vehicle, and $80,000 of petrol takes you a very, very long way. So why bother? As long as it's reliable and dependable and it does the job, why spend the money? All it's got to do is depreciate. So, good answer. I think we're all on the same boat with that. And I'm very dubious about modern vehicles and how complex they are and how expensive they are to repair. I mean, stupid things like headlights. They're all LED style headlights nowadays. They can be thousands of dollars for a new headlight, and there's no bulbs to replace. You've got to replace the entire headlight when it stops working. Whereas the old vehicles, like Ben's Patrol, it's what, $10 for a bulb? And to be fair, I've got a box full of them up there. So it's really zero cost. They all came from the UK. They're all paid for. They were paid for 20 years ago, probably. They probably are 20 years old, those bulbs. Where do we get to? Simon, have you got a faceplate for your lathe? I haven't. The Giants, what did the aluminium cost? So I've covered that. So it was Woody charged me $200 plus GST plus freight, which I thought was a very, very fair price. Simon, will Delrin plastic not be cheaper than alloy for easier to machine? Possibly. I just like machining aluminium. Now then, Roger, good morning, Andy and crew. Slept in here. Sleeping. Good. I could have had a really good sleep in this morning. I couldn't, could I? One of those things. And I can't have a sleep in tomorrow because I'm going up to Auckland tomorrow. And I'm in Auckland for 3 days. I've got to get the piece of shit ute serviced and a new windscreen fitted because a huge rock, I say a huge rock, it was a reasonable sized rock, hit the windscreen when I was up at Kaitaia and has put a great big crack in the CVA, which is the CVA critical vision area. That's the important part of the windscreen, the bit that you look out of. And it needs a warrant of fitness as well, and it ain't going to pass the warrant with the windscreen as it is. So it needs a new windscreen on Monday afternoon. It's getting that, and of course it's got this stupid road, radar system on it for keeping you in the lanes and that kind of stuff. So all that needs to be recalibrated once the new screen's fitted. So it's about a 4-hour job, they told me. And then Tuesday is service day, service and warrant. So God knows what it needs for that. Remember, the vehicles had a frontal impact that wasn't repaired. The plastic, the cosmetics were repaired, but the structural damage to the vehicle was not repaired. That came to light when we did the wheel alignment with the new tyres. So during the service, they might find something, and I'll be asking them specifically to check the front end components for damage, because something's bent. It really is. And then, so I've got that to do. That's basically all day Tuesday, getting it serviced and warranted. I've set aside the whole day because it'd be a major service on it, because we don't know the service history. And then Wednesday, I've got a meeting in the morning in Auckland City, and then Wednesday afternoon drive home, and then Thursday is Taupo, and Friday, where the hell am I going on Friday? I have another road trip on Friday. Can't remember where it is, but I'm going somewhere else on Friday. So another busy week. And thank you, Roger, for your efforts recently. I can't say too much because Mrs. Mechanic's listening, but thank you for your efforts earlier in the week. Very much appreciated. And I'll be sure to let Mrs. Mechanic know what you did for me, stroke her. Once it's her birthday, because at the moment she doesn't get to know. It's a surprise, okay? Right. Simon, drill the alloy bar, use a bolt as a mandrel to machine it, then part it off just above the mandrel. That'll work. That will work. You see, the lad's a genius. And I've got some pretty big bolts as well, so we'll do that. But it might fit. It might just fit in the chuck. I don't know yet. Leave it with me. I know I can twizzle around the three little jaws to extend the diameter that I can put in the lathe. So maybe. I'd like to do it proper lathe style and not have to bother with mandrels and stuff, but we'll see. We will see. Right, Jim Haynes, late as usual. That's fine, Jim. Welcome back. I can't hear the pie ticking away anymore, the pie warmer, so I think the pie is ready. So we'll crack on with that very shortly. Jim Haynes, I did hit the like button though. Thank you, Jim. Much appreciated. And as you can all do, you can all click the like button or the dislike. Your call. Mike Adams, outside of some emissions and some safety inspections in some states, I'm glad we don't have to worry about certifying every time we even sneeze on the car like you do here. Yes, New Zealand is a nightmare for older vehicles. You can't, strictly speaking, I shouldn't do any welding on a chassis, on a vehicle here. The trailer chassis are different, but car chassis, four-wheel drive chassis, any welding on those would then need to be declared and then certified. And the certification chap would say, well, let me see the cert of the welder guy. Was he a qualified welder? And all my qualifications for welding they just don't, they're not even recognized here in New Zealand. So just keep quiet, right? Just do a good job, make it so it's not obviously home done. And I'm lucky enough that my welding's tidy enough to usually just get overlooked. I mean, the old fun bus, the chassis on that is covered in my welding. There's loads of problems with that chassis. That's why it's off the road now. It's not worth fixing. It really isn't. Jim Haynes, I think the Land Cruisers are 100 in the US also. They're expensive trucks, and they only nowadays have limited production because a ruling came in a few years ago now, not that many years, but 3 or 4 years ago, where car manufacturers have to have an overall carbon footprint. So what's been going on is they produce, a shitload of EVs or, the multi-fuel cars, hybrids, which have got very low carbon emission type, not in the production, but in the use once they're in market, to offset the higher emissions of the Land Cruisers. And I think the balance was getting too swayed, and they actually cut Land Cruiser production for about a year. They said, look, there won't be any for a year. We need to focus on these, get our carbon credits back up, and then we've got enough to then start building them again. So that was a massive disruption in Land Cruiser production. There weren't any new ones for sale here in New Zealand for about a year. And the second-hand value of the Land Cruisers went through the roof. A friend of mine down in Queenstown had one of it wasn't a pickup one, it was the full body one. I think it had 3 rows of seats in it. That vehicle had done 80,000 kilometers. He sold it for $130,000. Unbelievable. But it was the V8 diesel, which again, you can't get anymore. I think they're down to a 4-cylinder now. It's just ludicrous. You know, really is very highly stressed little engines compared to what they used to have. I did toy with the idea of getting one. I think, because I wanted to buy a new vehicle in readiness for my retirement, you know, so I've got my own truck that will last me for the duration of driving. And when they dropped down to a 6-cylinder. I was like, okay, 6-cylinder, fair enough. And now they've gone to a 4-cylinder. I'm not really interested in having a 4-cylinder, to be fair. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. I think just another Patrol will be fine. And it's a lot cheaper, less commitment, right? Plus, I'll have some spending money. I can trick it out and do some nice stuff to it. But not overpower it. I don't want to pull too much power from the 4.2 diesel engine because they are renowned. They can go pop. But in standard form, super reliable, as the Fun Bus has proved. Where do we get to? Jeff Corey. Good morning, Jeff. Welcome to the workshop. Oh, God, another bloody Windows update. Go away. Hello from Hobbitland. Just here for the pies. Good man. All the way to New Zealand for pies. Excellent. Roger Heaps. All good, mate. Was easy. Thank you. I'm pleased it was easy. The Giant. Please do a video when you do the aluminium. Okay. I can do that. I'm sure Mrs. Mechanic's going to be wandering in at some point today to do some more filming. She did some filming yesterday. Not a lot. Did a little bit of filming yesterday for the video diaries. I'm pretty sure she'll be doing quite a lot more today because Ben's full bore on his patrol doing the swivel bearings and swivel seals and stuff, which is not a simple job. Hopefully he'll keep the shims for the kingpin bearings in order because otherwise he'll have problems. In fact, I can hear noises out there now. She might be filming already. Who knows? Right, Simon, problem solving. That the good thing about YouTube is the hive mind. Yes, we're all here to help each other, and it's very, very helpful. Roger Heaps, I spoke to a cert guy about manual swap car, and he said if the standard parts used, not required. Never had an issue at WAF time. Well, they're all standard parts. This is the whole point. Nissan designed everything. All we've done is change it from a Nissan auto box. Well, we didn't do it, but to a manual, gearbox, and they're all genuine parts. So why? Poor lad. I'm going to go down and see the cert guy on Thursday and have a chat with him. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted. One little lady, pie. Let's go and get the pie. 3, 2, 1, boom. Okay, we've been reminded the pie is ready. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. Ooh, sweet and sour pork. Should be good, right? Should be really good. Fingers crossed. Right, I'll put it on the only clean part of the bench. I'll stick him over there. Nice. Okay. Turn you around. 3, 2, 1. Boom. There we go. Right. Okay. Video still looks reasonably good. Thank you, YouTube or internet, or whoever's done that. So who else? We'll just catch up in the comments. Simon Rowe, One Little Lady and Co. Good editing on the last one. Yeah, I know my editing's crap, right? But it's quick. That's the important thing because I don't have a lot of time. But yes, Mrs. Mechanic, she's very good at editing. She's getting even better. And she keeps going until she gets it how she wants it to look. My editing, as you all know, is very basic. It's just one little snip to the next. Doesn't need to be all fancy with music and multi-screen stuff. Okay, the pie. Sweet and sour pork. Never had sweet and sour pork in a pie before. Doesn't look too bad. It hasn't split open due to thermal expansion. The bonding of the lid to the base is still pretty good. I can tell this is going to be a plethora of bits of, or a flurry, probably a better word, a flurry of pastry all over the workbench as soon as I bite into it. Look at the multi-layers there. Look, it's just asking for trouble, isn't it? Okay, so for those that have just joined us, this is a kiwi pies. Basically, sweet and sour pork pie. Now, I've never had a pie on camera. I've only had one previously, which was a steak and cheese. So kiwi pies. They're made in T Awamutu, just down the road, not too far from here. So a local pie, only available locally. This is the first time I've ever come across this pie. I'll have to give them a ring and find out when they started, to be fair, because it might be a new startup company. Quite a few pie companies in New Zealand have closed, so there's definitely a market out there if they can make them of a good enough quality at the right price. Okay, we're going in. Tasty. I like it. Now, we'll save that bit for like. Remind me, I've got to talk about my roof. I did some calculations and costings. Okay, the pen is ready to go. We'll have another bite, and we've got to do taste stroke flavour of the contents first. Whew. It's quite hot. Now, internally, it looks a little bit like slurry. It's just, I don't see any meat yet. Tastes nice, but it's just the sweet and sour taste. I've not had any pork come out of the pie yet. So, hopefully it's not just going to be sweet and sour slurry with a little slither of pork. If there's anything to go by... Oh, okay, apologies. First time I've ever sneezed on camera. The steak and cheese pie had massive chunks of steak in it. So my expectations are there'll be massive chunks of pork in here. However, they haven't arrived yet. One more bite and we'll do a score on the contents. Okay. There is a piece of pork. It was actually quite... I didn't even know I was biting through it. It was... Wow, the lid's trying to fall off. I won't force it off, but it's trying to fall off. Okay. So there's some of the sweet and sour sort of jelly stuff, which was going to escape. And then you've got some more pork there, look. So the pork flavour is coming through now, which is good. Okay. It tastes quite synthetic. The sweet and sour element. Quite chemically. But it's not a bad flavour, to be honest. So we have to score it. So it's not bad. I quite like the flavour. And it's the first ever sweet and sour pork pie I've ever had. So I'm going to give it... I'll give it a 7, I think. Oh, update on the board. We've got some new yellow tape on there. Did some repairs this morning. So we'll give it a 7 for that. I'm just hoping that the red pen comes off the tape. Structure Foley Partners. Well, there's bits of pastry all over the workbench already, and it's only going to get worse. And we lost a big chunk right at the start. So let's leave that a little bit longer, and then we'll see what the final debris level is. Runnability, so 45 degrees, 30 seconds. Here we go. It could be a problem. Are you ready? 45 degrees. There you go, 45 degrees. That was just pastry. Can we see any movement on the contents? It's hanging in there, isn't it? I was expecting it to run because there's a lot of that sort of sloppy stuff in there. The sweet and sour goo, we'll call it. That actually looks just stable. So it's a pass. So it gets a 10. It gets a 10. There was no movement. Meat quality, a very important one for a meat pie. Okay. Well, that's not bad. There's another chunk there, look. I've just eaten half of it. It looks pretty good. It's got strandy stuff in it, so it's proper meat. I quite like this. It's different, very different. And odd to have a sweet and sour pork for breakfast, to be fair. Meat quality. No gristle yet. I'm going to give it... I'll give it a 7. It could be better, I think. Right, now, contents to pastry ratio. So as you can see, there's a lot of pastry on this pie. We've got some really thick pastry along the base, up the sides. And then we've got this massive, mega multi-layer top to it as well. The actual volume of the contents is actually quite small, which is bad for a pie. Because you want it to be wholesome, right? You don't just want to eat pastry all morning. There you go. And these foldy bits here, the flange, are quite hard and they're very thick. Very thick. You really know when you're biting through them. So, contents. It's quite a small amount of volume that's in there, to be fair, of contents. So, I'm going to give it 4. I think 4. Okay, available logistics. 1 petrol station. That's the one place I've come across this pie. Now, I might be a bit harsh, but that's the only place I've ever seen these pies. So it gets a 1. You can't order them online. It's that one specific petrol station. Sure, I imagine that they're going to be available in Te Awamutu, the village township where they're made. I mean, Christ, you wouldn't make any money as a pie. I'll give them a 2. What the hell? We'll give them a 2. Oh, there's a burp. Remember that? There's another burp. Remember that one? Pastry. Pastry taste rating. Okay, well, first of all, the lid. Quite tasty, to be fair. Right, we're going in again. It's a very different kind of pie, but it's actually quite tasty. I like it. Pastry's good, other than these bits here, where it's the flange area. Just a bit hard and a bit slightly burnt. I will give them, but the top's nice, so I'll give them I'll give them a 6. What the hell? Now, would it still be tasty when it's cold? A cold sweet and sour? I think it would. I've eaten sweet and sour cold before, and it's not that bad. It's obviously nice and warm, but it's not bad cold. A big chunk of pork. It was in that void, and it was that entire void. And it was all right. Actually, no gristly stuff. Okay, so would it be tasty cold? I don't think it'd be quite as tasty as a steak and cheese pie cold. So I'm going to give it, I'll give it a 6. Again, another 6. Packaging design. Well, they've gone for a paper bag, but it is printed. And it's got a kiwi on there eating a pie, which is pretty cool. And it's got all the, it's only printed on one side, so that's cheaper to produce, save the cost. And unlike some of the pies, the Bake Shack ones, the ink hasn't been rubbed off. It stays on the packet, which is what it's all about. So somebody has spent a bit of time designing that. And the bag is specific to the pie flavour. As you can see, it's up there, look. So it's not too bad. It gives you the best before, actually, it would give you the best before date, but it hasn't been written on. But there's a place for it. And it tells you to store it below 4 degrees C, which is very important. Oh, somebody has stamped it, but it's sort of down here somewhere. I can't really read it very well. Something of March. 7th of March. 7th of March, it was best before. Wow. 7th. It's the 9th today. 7th was Friday. And I bought it on Thursday. So very short best before date. Only or best before period of 1 day. Don't know how long it'll be in the pie warmer though. Could have been there for a week. Who knows? Still tastes all right. Pork filling, 51%. Pretty good. Right, another bite. I'm getting hungry. We found all the pork. It was down the bottom. Okay, so packaging design. It's not bad. It's not great, not the best we've seen, but it's not bad. I'll give them another 6. I think they deserve another 6 for that. Recyclable score. It is a paper bag. Do they tell us it's recyclable? May contain egg. No. They don't. So they lose a point for not telling us it's recyclable. So they get 9. Not too bad. Okay. Post-pie heartburn. 2 burps so far. So it gets 8. Unless we lose some more. Stuffability score. That's going to have to wait. We're not finished yet. Pie server attractiveness, ambience of the selling establishment. Well, it was a petrol station. But they'd gone to the trouble of making a nice cafe. And the young lady that served me, I'd give her an 8. To be fair. I'm sure on Simon's scale, I'd give her an 8. So, let's give her an 8. Very good. And she was very helpful, you know. Happy. How can I help? Oh, you'd like one of those. They're great pies, you know, all that kind of stuff. Where are you heading today? You know, that kind of thing. Okay. So, we have structure of holy partners. There's stuff all over the place. There really is. You wouldn't eat this in your car. No way, Jose. But it really is just the puff pastry that's gone everywhere. So, the main structure was good. So we will give it 7. I think 7. Another burp. Right, we're down to 7 for that one as well. Dum, dum, dum. 7. Okay, last one. Stuffability score. So I need to finish the pie. Pretty good. I would definitely have another one. Without any doubt. I think when I go out that way, I'll buy a few and put them in the freezer. Okay. Quite dry, the pastry on that bit. Pastry. I'm going to knock that down to 5. That's going to be a 5. Sorry. That last bite was really dry pastry. Okay, do I feel stuffed? I do, actually. This pie is a 220 gram pie. Remember, the New Zealand average is around about 200. So it's slightly bigger than an average pie. So I'm pretty full. Am I over full? No. Am I still hungry? Could I eat some toast? I can always eat, right? But not really want anything else to eat. So I'm going to give it a 10. I am satisfied as regards hunger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All the scores are in. God, it's a mess. Right, let's see if we can work out what the score is. Turn around, 3, 2, 1, boom. Going down. Okay, so first of all, what is the pie? We need to write that on there as well. So it's a sweet and sour pork pie, and it's a kiwi pies. Okay, so we've got 24, 31, 35, 36, 37, 42, 48, 54, 63, sorry about the noise, 63, 71, 81, 88. Look at that. Silver line. 88. Not a bad score. Not the best score by far, but not a bad score. Let's go and see where that would end up on the board, because as you know, Andy has no more magnetic strips at the moment. So, oh, another one. 88. That should be 87 now, shouldn't it, really? 88. Oh, there we are, look. Okay, so we've got here, if it's going to stick. Oh, man, I thought we'd do better than that. So number 8, steak pie, 88. Oxford pies, steak and cheese, 88. Bake Shack, steak, very little meat, 88. So it's sort of in that area there. And what's let it down, I think, is the logistics and the pie to crust ratio. They're pretty low marks of those, 2 and 4 respectively. But other than that, the scores aren't too bad. So if they just got their pie to crust ratio sorted out, so the contents versus the amount of pastry, and they sold them in, more around New Zealand, they were more readily available, they get more score for that. And what else did they score poorly on? Taste flavor was good. Pastry rating. They need to make the pastry taste a bit better. Just not so burnt would be good, but that might not be their fault. It might have been in the pie warmer a bit too long at the petrol station. So, morning, Lily. So there you go. Job done. I will take a photo of that and add it to the archives, and then we'll add all these pies to the board once I get those new magnetic strips. So I'm going to be trying to get them next week when I'm in Auckland again. I keep forgetting. I'm terrible. Right. Oh, thanks for the stapler, Ben. Much appreciated. I've got a seat cover to reattach to a base later on for another ROV. Just never ends, does it? Never ends. But yeah, kiwi pies. Good job, kiwi pies. I quite like that. But your steak and cheese was phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. I was blown away how good it was. Okay, what are we up to? 1 hour and 13 minutes. We're not too far from the end. Another sort of 10 minutes or so, I think. Right, let's go back to the comments, because there are lots of comments which I've been not ignoring, but I've been pieing, so forgive me. Make sure it's level, Andy. There we go. Right, so here we go. Oh, go back. Machine NZ. Good morning, Andy and crew. Good morning, Kevin. Welcome back to the workshop, sir. I'm going to be machining today. Getting the old Boxford working hard. Mike Adams. Is there a certain age limit when vehicles don't have to be certified? Here in the States that have inspections pre-1970, models are exempt from emissions. We don't have in-service emission testing in New Zealand. They just have to meet emission requirements, Euro 5, Euro 6, I think it's Euro 6 now, upon new vehicle entry. So if you bring an older vehicle in, second-hand vehicle into New Zealand, then the emissions only have to meet the emissions at the time the vehicle was made. So if it was made in 1972, whatever the emissions requirements were, if there were any back in 1970, probably not, then it would need to meet those requirements. And that you'd look back at the original statement of compliance or the manufacturer's specifications, details at the time it was produced, whatever they published. But new cars, yeah, are a pain in the ass. A lot of people will delete, especially on the diesels, they'll delete stuff, and cats on the petrols, they'll delete them. Should you, or can they get away with it? They normally can, because the inspector's not allowed to take anything off the vehicle. Although a vehicle that's supposed to have a cat, if it didn't have a catalytic converter at the time of the warrant and it was found to be missing, then it would fail the warrant of fitness, because it's not as it was when it was new. It's obviously been modified. But no, there's no gas analyzer stuck up the exhaust pipe on a warrant of fitness. They tried many years ago to try and bring it in, keep it in line with Europe, and there was such a big backlash that they decided to withdraw it because of the cost of the machinery. And a lot of the warrant places are very rural. They don't really make any money out of warrants. It's just more of a service that they do for the people that live in the area. The warrant cost would need to go through the roof. And what would happen is a lot of people wouldn't even bother getting the car's warrant of fitness inspected. They'd just take the fine if they got stopped. So it would have been a pretty negative effect on vehicle safety here in New Zealand. So that's probably why the government pulled out of it. So I don't know, Mike, to be honest. I think I've covered what I know about that. As we go, I'll ask the guy on Thursday, does it matter if the vehicle's really old? Does it still need a cert? I think the answer will be yes, it does. And the reason why I think that is people, they build hot rods from really old cars, and all the chassis modifications and welding and so on, that still needs to be certified, even though the vehicle could be from the 20s, 30s, for example. So yeah, I think they do actually. Certification here in New Zealand is big business, but there's not that many people around that are qualified to do it. I dealt with a guy called Kevin Morant up in Auckland when I brought the Nissan Patrol, the fun bus, into New Zealand, and it got flagged at warrant. It got flagged for corrosion, and to be honest, the corrosion wasn't bad at all. It was like, this truck's like really good. Why would you flag that? And I had to do a lot of repairs to not to the chassis at that time. It was the bodywork. I documented all of them. I took photos before, during, and after the repairs. And Kevin came down and he inspected a couple of the repairs and he said, mate, this is, if all the rest of them are as good as this, he said, you should be a panel beater. And it's like, I don't want to be a panel beater. He says, now I'm just going to sign it off. Job done. You've documented everything. I'm very happy with that. So that was a bonus. It was a bit of a pat on the back because I didn't really know. And I couldn't get anybody in that area to do the repairs and pay them to do the repairs. And I said, look, I can't get anybody. Can I do it myself? And he said, can you weld? I said, yeah. He said, just do it. Let's see if it's good enough. So he was happy. More than happy. Connor K. Yes, turning and drilling, the aluminium video. Okay, we're on. Simon. Not a dig at your editing, Andy. It's all right. I get it. Mike Adams. Hey, being a little OCD can be a good thing for quality on some projects, but a pain in the ass when time is of the essence. I know. There's some jobs that I just don't like. I just don't like doing, right? But needs must. There would have been when we did those calipers at the time, there would have been definitely a time constraint, and maybe the caliper rebuild kit wasn't available. Maybe it was going to take a couple of weeks to get, and Ben needed the vehicle as his daily. So you just do what you do, right? And I mean, dust seals, they don't really affect the operation of the caliper. They just really, limit its life expectancy. And sure enough, 6 years down the line, or however long it was, it bitters. so be it, you know. Such is life. But they're good enough now. The pistons they cleaned up really well, actually. I thought they were going to be a lot worse than they were. But he'll need to get new pistons, I think, if we're to do them again. He's hammering. Jim K, hello. Good morning, Jim. Welcome back to the workshop, sir. Simon. And Jim, thank you again for all your assistance earlier this week. Information was instrumental. I submitted my report and it was well received. Thank you. So I'll keep you posted. Simon had some similar with an MOT tester. The engine management came on during test. Was a 2006 diesel. Pulled up the test manual on my phone, found the right bit. The look on his face was a treat. Good job, mate. Mike Adams, hello, Jim. Welcome to the jungle. Lauren's Garage, hello from Texas. Again, sorry, caught you late. How the new addition to the shop coming along? The side port is all the timber work's finished. It's all bolted up. It's just waiting for the new roof to go on. I got it. Oh, good segue. Thank you. So this is the approximation of the roof size. I've allowed 13 meters by, what is it? Yes, 13 meters by 5750 mil. So just under 6 meters this way and about 30, just under 13 meters that way. I've gone slightly over because I can always just overlap the tin a couple more ridges just to get the final width. Always better to buy a bit more than a bit less, right? And I was thinking, oh man, you know, the quote's going to be quite high. It's going to cost me a fortune. I've been dreading the quote coming through. So it worked out to be 18 sheets at 5,750 millimeters long, plus 850 screws to hold the whole thing down, and the ridge piece, the piece that will go across the apex part of the roof between the current workshop roof and the new roof. And that was in 3 pieces. I think I ordered 3 5-meter lengths. There will be a bit of overlap on that, obviously. And I can just overlap it to suit. I don't need to cut it. I just overlap it and screw it out. And the overlap per roof is a foot, 12 inches, so it's a nice big size. So we can get plenty of screws in it to hold it down. Not that it gets really windy here. It's quite sheltered, to be fair. So I always thought, well, about 3,500 New Zealand dollars. Hopefully including GST. Anyway, the quote came through and I was pleasantly surprised. $2,700 approximately, including GST. So significantly cheaper than I thought it was going to be. So no, I haven't got the money for it yet, and I've got it coming in. I've got some invoices that all need paying, so that will help cover the cost of the roof. And then once it's done, it will be amazing. It really will, because you start to get the shadow effect on the ground now. All the timbers are up, and it'll greatly reduce the amount of direct sunlight around that part of the building and the garden as well. So, and it'll give us so much more undercover storage. It'll be brilliant, to the point where I can clear out the house port and we can start to do the deck under there, which Mrs. Mechanic has been waiting for years. Poor lass, she really has, and it'll be great to have a deck under there. I think the cigarette's gone out. Hang on. So, Simon, Mike Adams, the UK is 40 years old and not having had major modifications for 30 years and registered as historic. Wow, okay, so there is still some specifics over there. Wade Mayer, watching while building a home office. Thanks for the company, crew. No problem, Wade. Good to have you on board. Lauren's Garage. In a lot of states in America have no requirements or are leaning towards no emissions. Wow. And now even safety inspections anymore. Going to put a lot of shops out of business. So they're relaxing the rules in the US, not tightening them up. That's really interesting to see. And I mean, you know, when you watch the car shows that are filmed in the US, you know, they drive all, I mean, especially ex-roadkill. what a shame they've gone, right? They used to drive some absolute pieces of shit on major highways and never get into any problems with it. How they got away with it? I was thinking in the UK, man, they'd throw the book at you with some of those vehicles that they drove. But in the US, it seemed fine, not a problem. So clearly, the rules over there are a lot less than what they are in the UK, and certainly here in New Zealand, man, you got a light out that pull you up. Over here, they're pretty harsh, and you get points in your license as well. Roger Heaps, 2010, and newer cars must have cats in place, but no Tesla. It's a similar thing with the warrant of fitness for airbags, right? So an airbag has an expiry date of 10 years. And there's usually a little label on the airbag telling you what the expiry date is. And the warrant of fitness says that all your airbags have to be, within, they need to be valid as regards the expiry date. They need to be within that 10-year period. But the guy doing the warrant of fitness inspection isn't allowed to remove anything to gain access to where that sticker is to see what it says. It's just bullshit. It's just complete. There's no logic. You can't get your head around it. You couldn't write a book like this. It's just so bizarre. So, as a warrant of fitness inspector, you're signing stuff off that it could be a 20-year-old Corolla. It's got a driver's airbag, and full well that airbag has expired, but you can't prove it. But then you got another rule saying if you're not sure, you should fail it. So, I mean, what do you do? It puts everything on the warrant guy. Jim Haynes, New Zealand, the land of too many automotive laws for a small place like Japan. This place is full of it. And I think what really pushes them is that there are so many fatalities on the roads here in New Zealand. And people do drive around vehicles which, shouldn't be up to warrant standards. The classic one is if your tyres, the tread depth, for example, passes the warrant, then they'll just run those tyres until the next warrant in a year's time for some cars. And then when it fails the warrant on the tyres, because they're down to the wires, that's when they'll replace them. It's just a joke. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone's like that, and it is slowly getting better, but there are people like that. It's it begs belief, to be honest. Now then, Machine Z, who's banging? Ben or Mrs. Mechanic? It's Ben. He's working on his patrol. He's doing the swivel seals on the front axle today because they were leaking a little bit. But the chalices, the chromed dome bits, there's a patch which is a little bit rough. It's not nice and smooth. So the seals he puts in probably won't last that long. So I said to him, you need to just try and get rid of that roughness and make it as smooth as you can. And it may well be that he doesn't use four-wheel drive that often. He may just run them with grease on the CVs as opposed to oil, and then that way they won't leak. Suzuki Jeeps run grease, so what's the problem? John Nuttall, no show Apro. Hey, what's this? No show Apro. Liam Neeson is asking why. I don't know what that is. Tell me more, John. Lauren's Garage, you are totally right about total pause. Now in California, it's the total opposite. They won't even let you in the States if you are not up to code, and on some older cars still have to have them. I've heard that California is getting really stringent on vehicles. They just don't like vehicles, full stop. They just don't want any. Simple as that. Not good. Not good at all, to be honest. Okay, crew. Well, we've come to the end of the comments. We've done the pie, and it wasn't a bad pie, to be fair. Could be a new, I wouldn't say the favourite, but almost favourite pie company. And don't forget, Wild Bean Cafe pies definitely dropped in quality in the last year, without a doubt. So maybe my new favorite pie could be. But I've got to travel it's about an hour and a half away. Is where that pie was purchased. So it's a long way to go for a pie. But I do go that way, a few times each year. So maybe I'll stock up. Jim K. Oh, hang on, we've got another email notification. Go away. I want that. Did you see Guy Martin went to Chernobyl? No. I'll have to. Is that? It's on TV rather than YouTube. I'll have to Google the crap out of that and find out where that is. I'm a bit of a fan of Guy Martin. Top bloke. Lauren's Garage. That was the pause. Okay. Connor K. Click the like. Thank you, Connor. Okay, crew. I've got to go. I've got loads of machining to do. I've got Ben to assist, not do the job. He's going to do it himself, but I'm going to assist Ben with doing those bearings. Sorry, those seals. Keep thinking of bearings. God knows why. Maybe I'm concerned about the kingpin bearings. To be honest, that's what we're thinking about. Simon, the trick in the UK with the DPF is to drill a 22mm hole into the DPF so it can breathe. The DPF looks like it's not being tampered with. Simon knows all the tricks. John Nuttall, you spent a night in Auckland and he asked you to call in at the... Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry, John. I probably just gave up. I'll have been knackered that night. Let me just take another photo of that and it'll remind me when I get up there. Jeez. My memory's crap these days. My sincere apologies. Sent you the emails. You did. I'll dig out the email when I get up there. Oh, so many notifications. Okay, crew. Thank you again all for joining. Very much appreciated. And I will see you on a live stream in a couple of weeks. Same time. See you then. Cheers. Over and out.